Hey, what's up everyone? This is Claire from Pan Entertainment, and we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian. So first episode's out on Disney Plus, and everyone who was able to buy and then access the streaming service, watch it. I think in general everyone's pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with it. I was really excited to see just the way that Pedro Pascal was going to play the main character, whose name he did reveal. Whether or not that was intentional. So spoiler alert, his name is Din Djarin. So how Pedro Pascal played Din Djarin I think was really, really great. But today I really wanted to talk about the Mandalorian lore and presence in this new series that's kind of coming together. And I know everybody else wants to talk about, again, spoiler alert, but everybody wants to talk about Baby Yoda, who is actually the cutest ever. Seeing Baby Yoda was like, let me adopt one. But that actually wasn't as exciting to me. I mean, it was exciting. It's definitely really exciting because Baby Yoda is going to be, it is going to be like a huge deal for Din Djarin's character. You know, he may be choosing this baby over the reward from this bounty, which is a huge deal because the reward, for people who watch this and know Star Wars, is Beskar, which is an extremely rare metal that I believe canonically is only mineable on Mandalore, the Mandalorian homeworld. And it's the secret, it's the key to how effective and valuable Mandalorian armor is, because it's able to withstand even lightsaber it's a secret to how the Mandalorians were able to become such famed warriors, because they were able to take on, they were able to go head to head with Jedi. And not only that, they have a very well-rounded set of combat skills. They're like the jack of all trades when it comes to combat. They can do pretty much everything, but Beskar is a huge, huge deal, and the armor is a huge, huge deal. So I really wanted to talk about the armor a bit, and then just what that means for Mandalorians, because we see in the episode that Din Djarin gets a pauldron, so he gets this beautiful little shoulder piece that doesn't have any markings or anything on it yet, because he's still kind of, I think it's symbolic to say that he's sort of an unformed character. His sigil hasn't appeared. He doesn't have his roots, his allegiances. While we can all assume that he, serves his Mandalorian community, this little underground enclave, and the families that are with that group. While we can all assume that, we know that this character is going to be an anti-hero with a lot of conflict. He's a bounty hunter, right? He's a bounty hunter who usually works for the highest bidder, and you can tell that when he brings in bounties, all of those resources that he acquires goes back to his community. So I think allegiance and loyalty is going to be an extremely important theme in this, especially if he chooses to protect Baby Yoda instead of delivering and receiving a huge, probably a huge shipment of Beskar from the remnants of the Empire, and having that, bringing all of that to the group that he's supporting, right? Because it's a huge resource. It's a really important resource symbolically, because all this Beskar was taken from the Mandalorians, and it also goes into creating the armor. It just has a lot of cultural but also economic impact in the Outer Rim, where you can see that people are lacking in resources. Times are really tough out there. Currency is in flux, with the fall of the Empire. And so if he chooses, instead of if he chooses to bring, or to protect Baby Yoda over bringing all of this to his community, well, that's a huge thing. But I want to talk about the Enclave a little more as well, because when you walk in, when he's walking through the tunnel, you see the Mythosaur skull. Obviously, it's not to scale for Mythosaurs, but it's, you've got the Mythosaur skull, which people recognize as the insignia that's on Boba Fett's arm. And you see that hanging over the doorway, or the entryway into the place, or into the, what's the word? Where they make the armor. The armory, and where the armorer is, who I really want to talk about. But you see that on top of that doorway. And while that is definitely a symbol that is associated with Mandalorians in general, it is actually the official symbol for the Mandalore, who is the official leader. The Mandalore is the title of the leader of the Mandalorians. So I think that's really significant. Whether or not that hidden group is actually affiliated or in touch with the last known leader of the Mandalore, who I will get to, that remains to be seen, and that would be really interesting, because leadership in the Mandalorian society has changed hands quite a bit since right before the Return of the Jedi and the Mandalorian Civil War. It had been changing hands due to Empire influence. And because Mandalorian culture is actually fairly rigid, and they have this code, and honor is really important, the person who takes up that title has to be chosen and has to be supported by the different houses and clans, the different Mandalorian houses and clans. So whichever house or clan this is, that's whoever it's revealed to be, that's going to be a big deal. Now I want to talk about the armorer really quickly, because Mandalorian armor is super symbolic, and she's wearing pretty, not flashy, but there are elements of her armor that are really, really noticeable. So the armor is extremely important for a bunch of different reasons I could go into, but she's wearing a helmet that has Zabrak horns on it. For anybody who doesn't remember what a Zabrak is, if you watched Phantom Menace, Darth Maul, Zabrak. Specifically Sith Zabrak, because Zabraks are just a race. They could be Sith, they could be evil, they could be not, right? So the significance of that has to do again with the Mandalorian Civil War. Darth Maul and a group of Zabrak actually appeared on Mandalore and was able to find a seat of power in Mandalore after, as different factions under the Mandalorian Empire, I wouldn't say empire, but the different factions within Mandalore were starting to conflict. So Darth Maul actually managed to ally himself, or to embed himself in a group of Mandalorians that was called the Mandalorian Death Squad, who was led by the then, I guess the leader, Vizsla is what I remember his name being. But the leader of House Vizsla, there's a lot that happened. This is explained in Star Wars Rebels, so everyone should go watch it if they haven't. But basically, there were two important Mandalorians in that Death Squad, which was Vizsla, and then there was Kryze. So Bo-Katan Kryze, the Mandalorians in that group end up flipping on Darth Maul and the Zabrak and ousting them, and Vizsla, spoiler alert, dies, and Bo-Katan Kryze ends up being the leader of the Mandalorians with the assistance of Mandalorian rebels. Mandalorian rebels, including, most notably Sabine Wren. Wren is one of the major houses in Mandalorian society, so with the help of Sabine, Bo-Katan gets the Darksaber that is wielded by the leader of the Mandalorians, then becomes supported by a couple of different Mandalorian houses, and she is the leader she's the last known official Mandalore, official leader of the Mandalorians. So that timeline in which the Zabrak did become involved in Mandalorian conflict and issues, that's going to be, I think that's all going to come out if the Armorer and her armor is any indication of that. I'm very curious, again, because I mentioned before, the Mythosaur skull was, in the entrance into the smithy, and that's the symbol of the leader. So whether, how closely this group is affiliated with Bo-Katan Kryze, or if they, are somehow allied or have sworn allegiance to whomever they feel is the true leader of the Mandalores. I think it's a huge deal. And I have a sneaking suspicion that Kryze will appear in this show, before long. And who knows, maybe the Armorer is Kryze, or maybe because after Kryze pretty much, takes up the mantle and has all these houses backing her, we don't really find out what happens after that. We assume that Mandalore is under, is with the rebellion, and is resisting the Empire, but we don't actually know what happens to them during or after Return of the Jedi. We have no idea. So, and they may explore that even more now that Rebels, and I think, and the new show Resistance, now that they're all on Disney Plus and they've been resurrected, or at least Rebels has been resurrected. Now that those pieces are starting to come together, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a huge deal, and I'm really excited to see Mandalorians take, who have had an involvement and key roles to play in conflict between Empire and Jedi and Rebellion and all of that, who've had key roles in these major conflicts and wars, to be explained so much more. Another thing is that I want to talk about in the episode really quickly, Din Djarin's use of carbonite to capture his bounties. He brings in his bounties like they're trading cards. Like he's got these, these slabs of carbonite with his bounties in them, and I think that's just, I don't know, it's kind of hilarious to me. But maybe we'll find out the significance of the use of carbonite within Mandalorian, warfare or combat even more. So that's my focus. That's what I'm gonna be paying attention the most to is the Mandalorians, the faction, the group, and then obviously the individual, and to see how his allegiances either shift or are revealed or are strengthened, whatnot, how that all plays out through the rest of the series. And I think they've done a really good job. I think it's really fun that they kept the classic Star Wars scene change cuts. Like, it gets a little campy, it gets a little cheesy at times, but that's part of Star Wars too. So I love that they've kept a lot of the flavor of traditional Star Wars, but have made it really palatable and enjoyable in a show form. So great job so far. It's been great talking about The Mandalorian. I'm so excited to do it again on Friday. So stay tuned, and if you have any fan theories, definitely let me know in the comments, and we'll brave this new experience together.
Follow our YouTube channel to watch our featured videos and original shows. See you there.